There comes a time in every life when people begin to fall away, not because you are unworthy, but because your soul is changing its direction. You don't lose people, you return to yourself. There comes a moment in your life when you quietly begin to realize that peace is far more important than people. Not because people are bad, but because not every soul who walks with you is meant to stay. Some come to teach you, some come to test you, some come to drain you, and a few rare ones come to awaken you. But most people who enter your life are not meant to walk all the way with you. And when you don't understand this, you start chasing those who have already completed their role in your journey. You think losing them is your failure, but losing them is your freedom. There is a strange sadness in outgrowing people, but there is also a quiet strength in it. Because the moment your soul begins to rise, you naturally begin to drift away from everything and everyone that does not match your new vibration. It doesn't matter how close you were. It doesn't matter how deeply you cared. It doesn't matter how much history you shared. When your soul evolves, your path changes. When your path changes, your energy changes. When your energy changes, your circle changes. This is not rejection. This is realignment. But the mind suffers because it wants permanence. It wants guarantees. It wants certainty. It wants people to remain the same even when you are no longer the same. The mind says, don't lose them. But the soul whispers, don't lose yourself. There are times when you don't even argue anymore. Not because you are weak, but because you are tired of repeating your truth to those who cannot understand it. There are times when you stop explaining, not because you have nothing to say, but because your peace has become more important than your need to be understood. There are times when you choose silence, not because you are defeated, but because you have finally matured. You have learned that not every battle deserves your energy. Some people are not wrong, and you are not right. You are simply different. The more you grow, the more you realize that solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is your soul healing in silence. When life starts removing certain people from your path, do not resist. Your soul is doing housekeeping. It is clearing space for new energy, new lessons, new connections, new versions of you. Sometimes the universe has to break your heart to protect your soul. Sometimes life has to remove people before they destroy your peace. Sometimes loss is not loss, it is divine rescue. But to see this, you must stop begging people to stay. You were never meant to chase. You were meant to attract. You were never meant to cling. You were meant to flow. You were never meant to lose yourself in the desire to be loved. You were meant to love yourself so deeply that anyone who cannot meet you there naturally falls away. Do not fear walking alone. Great souls always walk alone at some point, not because they are unwanted, but because they are becoming aligned with something higher. When you walk alone, you hear your own heartbeat more clearly. You hear your truth without interruption. You hear your intuition without confusion. You hear your soul without distortion. Alone is where transformation begins. Alone is where clarity awakens. Alone is where peace becomes audible. Alone is where strength is born. Alone is where you remember who you are, without the noise of the world. People who misunderstand your silence were never meant to understand your soul. People who leave when you grow were never meant to grow with you. People who disappear in your darkness were never meant to see your light. So let them go gently. Let them go without anger. Let them go without trying to prove anything. Let them go with love, because your journey is entering a chapter they were never designed for. The truth is simple. When you stop running behind people, you stop running away from yourself. And when you stop abandoning yourself, you finally discover that the peace you were searching for was always within you, waiting for you to return. There comes a time when your soul begins to protect you from people long before your mind realizes what is happening. You start feeling tired around certain individuals, even when they haven't said anything wrong. You start feeling drained after giving too much of yourself. You start sensing emptiness in conversations that used to excite you. You start noticing the heaviness of energies you once tolerated. This is not mood. This is not attitude. This is your soul trying to pull you away from what is no longer aligned with your growth. Energy never lies. Your inner self always knows before your outer self understands. You may not see it clearly at first, but you feel it deeply. That subtle shift, that quiet discomfort, that silent whisper saying, "This is not for you anymore." If era, but the mind resists. The mind says, "You're overreacting." The mind says, "Don't lose them." The mind says, "You owe them something." The mind says, "Stay where you are." Because the mind fears change, even when the soul is suffocating, and this inner conflict becomes suffering. The suffering of holding what is already falling. The suffering of staying where you don't belong. The suffering of shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that are too small for your truth. Growth is uncomfortable because it requires letting go of everything that was built by the old you. You cannot grow and cling at the same time. You cannot rise and hold on to what keeps you down. You cannot walk into the future while holding hands with the past. You cannot awaken while surrounding yourself with those who prefer you asleep. There are people whose presence keeps you heavy. There are people whose words keep you doubting. There are people whose energy keeps you confused. There are people whose absence brings more peace than their presence ever did. Let life remove them. Let silence replace them. Let solitude heal you from them. You don't need many people. You need aligned people. You need peaceful people. People who see your soul, not your weaknesses. People who value your presence, not your availability. People who respect your boundaries, not your silence. People who grow with you, not compete with you. But such people rarely enter your life until the wrong ones have left. This is why detachment is necessary. Not to hurt others, but to protect your inner world. Detachment is not coldness. Detachment is clarity. It is choosing not to abandon yourself for anyone again. It is choosing peace over pleasing. It is choosing truth over attachment. It is choosing your soul over your fear of being alone. Most people fear solitude because they have never met themselves. They have only met their thoughts, their wounds, their insecurities. They have never touched the silence beneath all of this. But when you finally sit alone, not in loneliness, but in presence, something sacred begins to happen. You notice that your own company is enough. You notice that your own energy is peaceful. You notice that you don't need to perform for anyone. You notice that your worth does not depend on validation. You notice that the love you gave to others was supposed to come back to you first. And slowly you begin to return to yourself, to your breath, to your truth, to your heart, to your silence. This returning is not dramatic. It is gentle, like dawn slowly entering the night, like waves softly touching the shore, like a flower opening without noise. You begin to live differently, not for others, but from yourself, not for attention, but from alignment, not from fear, but from awareness. You begin to protect your peace as if it is the most sacred thing you have. Because it is, you begin to realize that the people meant for your soul will never require you to betray yourself. The people meant for your journey will never exhaust your heart. The people meant for your life will never dim your light. The people meant for your future will never fear your growth. You do not need to chase them. You do not need to beg them. You do not need to hold them. You only need to remain aligned with your truth, and the right souls will find you. As naturally as light finds its reflection, this is the secret. When you choose peace, you stop losing people and start losing illusions. What leaves is never yours. What stays doesn't need to be forced. What aligns comes effortlessly. What's meant for you will rise with you. And when you understand this, you stop running behind people and you start walking with yourself. For the first time, your own presence becomes enough. For the first time, your own silence becomes healing. For the first time, your own soul becomes your home. You don't need people. You need peace. And people who respect your peace will naturally stay. People who drain your peace were never meant to stay. There comes a time when your soul begins to outgrow the people you once thought you could never live without. Not because you are better than them, and not because they are worse than you, but because your inner journey has taken you to a place they cannot follow. Growth is a lonely process, not because you lose people, but because you find yourself. And when you find yourself, the noise that once felt normal becomes unbearable. The drama that once entertained you begins to feel toxic. The people you once tolerated begin to feel heavy. The situations you once accepted begin to feel out of alignment. This shift is not arrogance, it is awakening. Awakening does not always come with light. Sometimes it comes with loss. Sometimes it comes with silence. Sometimes it comes with separation. Sometimes it comes with an emptiness you do not know how to explain. But that emptiness is sacred. It is the space where the old leaves and the new has not yet arrived. It is the gap where your soul breathes. And if you remain patient enough, you will notice a quiet strength rising within you. A strength you never knew you had. There is a beautiful truth you begin to realize. Not everyone is meant to sit at every chapter of your life. Some people belong only to the beginning. Some belong to the middle. Only a few belong to the end. But most of the suffering in your heart comes from trying to extend the presence of those whose part in your story is already finished. You try to revive connections that the universe has already taken away. You try to keep alive relationships that your soul has already outgrown. You try to force conversations where there is no understanding left. You try to hold together bonds that have already dissolved. But nothing real requires forcing. Nothing aligned requires controlling. Nothing meant for your soul requires losing your peace. When people drift away, let them. When situations fall apart, trust them. When certain energies feel heavy, release them. When your heart begins to close around someone, listen to it. Your energy is smarter than your mind. Your soul sees what your eyes cannot. Your intuition feels what your logic refuses to understand. There are people who leave gently and people who leave violently. There are people whose absence heals you and people whose presence hurts you. There are people who stay in your mind long after they leave your life, and people who leave your mind long before they leave your life. But every departure carries a message. Every silence carries a lesson. Every ending carries a beginning. And every time someone walks out of your life, something inside you grows. Wisdom, clarity, strength, self-respect. Life removes people, not to punish you, but to protect you, not to hurt you, but to heal you, not to make you lonely, but to make you whole. The ones who walk away were never meant for your depth. They were meant for the version of you that you no longer are. Sometimes you are not losing them, you are losing the version of yourself that tolerated them. You begin to understand something powerful. Connection is not about proximity. Connection is about energy. You can be surrounded by people and still feel empty, and you can sit alone and feel deeply whole. The right souls do not drain you. They energize you. They do not confuse you. They bring clarity. They do not trigger your wounds. They help you heal them. They do not demand your attention. They match your presence. But such souls are rare, and they only appear when you stop chasing the wrong ones. This is why solitude becomes sacred. Solitude is where you learn the difference between wants and needs. Solitude is where you understand that you don't need people to complete you. You only need people who align with your truth. Solitude is where you remember that peace is more valuable than company. Solitude is where you feel the softness of your own being. Solitude is where you return to the source within you. Walking alone teaches you that you can survive anything: loss, silence, endings, changes. But more importantly, it teaches you that you can thrive without anyone's approval. You learn to enjoy your own presence. You learn to feel safe within yourself. You learn to trust your own decisions. You learn to rely on your own energy. You learn to value your own peace more than someone else's attention. This is the transformation. You stop needing people and start selecting them. You stop chasing people and start attracting them. You stop begging for love and start becoming love. You stop seeking validation and start seeking truth. And when you reach this stage, your energy changes completely. The world feels different. You feel different. Your boundaries strengthen. Your clarity sharpens. Your intuition becomes louder. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. You no longer apologize for choosing yourself. You no longer feel guilty for protecting your heart. You no longer open doors that lead back to suffering. You no longer fight to keep people who are fighting to leave. Your soul finally takes control. And when the soul leads, life becomes simpler. People become clearer. Decisions become easier. And peace becomes natural. You realize you don't need people to feel whole. You need truth. You need clarity. You need alignment. You need freedom. You need silence. You need your own presence. Because when you have peace, you never feel alone. And when you lose peace, you feel alone even in a crowd. Choose peace, and the right souls will choose you. There comes a stage in your journey when you begin to understand that not every connection is meant to stay, and not every person who comes close to you is meant to walk with you forever. Life brings some people to awaken you, some to break you, some to teach you, some to mirror you, and a few rare ones to walk beside you. But most people are temporary visitors in the story of your becoming. And when you finally understand this, something deep inside you shifts. You stop fighting the natural flow of life. You stop forcing conversations that feel heavy. You stop holding relationships that drain your spirit. You stop begging for attention that comes with conditions. You stop running behind people who walk away easily. You stop giving pieces of your heart to those who never knew how to hold it. And when you stop all of this, you don't become colder. You become clearer. Clarity is not harsh. Clarity is peaceful. It removes confusion. It removes noise. It removes the emotional fog you were drowning in. You begin to realize that people leave when your energy rises because they are not meant to breathe the air of your next level. They belong to the chapter that is ending, not the new one that is beginning. But the mind resists endings because it loves the familiar. The mind wants to keep every connection alive, even when the soul knows it is time to let go. And whenever the mind and soul clash, your heart feels the pain. You feel the heaviness of letting go. You feel the discomfort of emptiness. You feel the silence that follows separation. You feel the loneliness of moving forward. But loneliness is not a punishment. Loneliness is preparation. Loneliness cleans the space around you so you can clearly see who is meant to walk into your life next. Loneliness strengthens your inner world, so you no longer depend on outer validation. Loneliness teaches you that you can survive without anyone, even those you once thought you could never let go of. You begin to realize that peace is more important than any attachment. Peace is more important than being understood. Peace is more important than being liked. Peace is more important than keeping someone close who keeps hurting you. Choosing peace is not selfish. It is sacred. It is choosing your soul over your wounds. It is choosing your growth over your comfort zone. It is choosing your future over your past. It is choosing to honor yourself more than pleasing others. There comes a quiet moment when you finally say to yourself, I am done breaking my own heart just to keep people in my life. That moment is the beginning of real transformation. You stop waiting for people to value you. You stop hoping someone will finally show up for you. You stop expecting others to change. You stop lowering your voice to be accepted. You stop dimming your light to be loved. Instead, you turn inward. You return to your breath. You return to your truth. You return to your wholeness. And when you return to yourself, the world around you shifts. The people who were vibrating at lower frequencies cannot handle your glow anymore. They walk away because their journey cannot match your elevation. But do not misunderstand this. Their departure is not loss. It is alignment. Life is clearing space for new energies, for new souls, for new experiences that resonate with who you are becoming. You are not losing people. You are losing illusions. You are not being abandoned. You are being redirected. You are not becoming lonely. You are becoming selective. You are not falling apart. You are falling into the truth of yourself. Deep inside, you already know that you were never meant to be surrounded by many people. You were meant to be surrounded by the right people, souls who do not fear your depth, souls who do not get intimidated by your truth, souls who can sit with your silence and still understand your heart. Such souls are rare, but they come only when you release everything that is not aligned. You cannot attract peace while clinging to chaos. You cannot attract love while holding on to fear. You cannot attract truth while living in denial. You cannot attract your destiny while holding the hands of people who belong to your past. Life is always trying to take you to the next chapter, but you must be willing to close the previous one. You must be willing to walk alone for a while. You must be willing to trust the path even when it feels empty. You must be willing to step into the unknown without carrying the weight of those who cannot walk beside you. And here is the most beautiful truth. The moment you no longer fear walking alone, you will never walk alone again. Because once you choose yourself deeply, the universe chooses you back. It sends people who match your frequency. It sends relationships that feel effortless. It sends connections that uplift your spirit. It sends love that does not demand sacrifice. It sends peace that does not break. When someone leaves, you don't need many people. You need the right energy. You need truth. You need alignment. You need freedom. You need yourself. Peace is the most loyal companion you will ever have. Anyone who disturbs it is not part of your destiny. There comes a moment in your inner journey when you finally understand that peace is not something you search for in the world, it is something you protect within yourself. And the more deeply you value this peace, the more clearly you see how many people were disturbing it. Not intentionally, not maliciously, but simply because their energy was never aligned with yours. When you were young, in awareness, you tolerated this misalignment. You tried to fit into spaces that were too small for you. You tried to hold relationships that could not hold you back. You tried to keep people close who were not meant to stay. But as your soul awakened, you began to sense the truth. Not every connection deserves a seat in your inner world. Your peace is not fragile. Your peace is precious, and anything precious must be protected. You begin to realize that your heart was never broken by losing people. Your heart was broken by abandoning yourself to keep them. You kept giving even when your spirit was empty. You kept understanding people who never understood you. You kept forgiving people who kept repeating the same wounds. You kept looking for love in places that were incapable of giving it. It wasn't people who destroyed your peace. It was your hope that they would become who you needed them to be. But people change only when their soul is ready, not when your heart is breaking, not when your patience is exhausted, not when your intentions are pure. You cannot wake someone who is committed to sleeping. You cannot heal someone who chooses their wounds over growth. You cannot save someone who does not want to leave their own suffering. You cannot carry someone who refuses to walk beside you. Your soul knows this. Your mind resists it, and your heart slowly learns it. This learning is painful, not because you lose people, but because you lose your illusions about them. You begin to see them clearly. Their patterns, their limitations, their lack of awareness, their emotional immaturity, their inability to meet you at the level your soul now exists. You see it not with anger, but with calmness, not with resentment, but with clarity, not with judgment, but with understanding. You understand that not every soul is meant to evolve with you. Some souls enter your life to show you who you were, not who you are becoming. Some souls enter your life to help you grow roots, not wings. Some souls enter to teach you love, others to teach you boundaries. Some souls enter your life for the chapter of becoming, but not for the chapter of being. And when their chapter ends, you must not hold them hostage in a story that is already complete. The universe removes people when their energy blocks your growth. The universe closes doors when you are afraid to leave. The universe breaks your attachment when your destiny requires freedom. This is not punishment. This is alignment. Alignment feels harsh when you cling to the familiar, but alignment feels liberating when you finally surrender. Surrender is not giving up. Surrender is trusting your soul more than your fear. Surrender is understanding that what leaves you is never meant for the path ahead. Surrender is accepting that every ending is a beginning wearing a disguise. The moment you accept this, your suffering begins to fade. You stop blaming people for leaving. You stop blaming yourself for losing them. You stop blaming life for shifting your path. Instead, you start listening to what your heart has been whispering. For years, you are meant for more than this. More than chaos, more than confusion, more than half-love, more than emotional crumbs, more than waiting for someone to change, more than shrinking to be chosen, more than carrying connections that choose comfort over growth. And the moment you honor this truth, a new power is born in you, a power that comes from deep self-respect. You no longer chase anyone. You no longer explain your worth. You no longer beg to be seen. You no longer tolerate disrespect. You no longer overextend your heart for those who give you nothing in return. Your silence becomes your filter. Your distance becomes your protection. Your peace becomes your priority. Your energy becomes your currency. And suddenly you feel the shift. You feel lighter. You feel clearer. You feel grounded. You feel whole. You feel free. This freedom is not about being alone. This freedom is about being complete. You realize you never needed people to make you whole. You only needed space to hear your own soul. Your soul speaks in silence. Your soul speaks in solitude. Your soul speaks in softness. Your soul speaks in clarity. And when you finally listen, you understand something profound. You don't lose people. You lose the parts of yourself that were holding on to them. What remains is your truth, your peace, your strength, your awakening. When you choose peace over people, you don't become lonely. You become aligned. And the souls meant for your next chapter will meet you exactly where your peace lives. There comes a moment when you finally stop asking, why did they leave? And you begin to ask, why was I holding on? And this single shift in awareness changes everything. Because the truth is, people don't leave your life when you need them. People leave your life when your soul no longer needs the lessons their presence was teaching you. They stay only until their purpose is complete. But the mind refuses to accept this. The mind wants consistency, predictability, permanence. The mind wants the story to continue even after the heart knows it must end. But when the soul evolves, the environment around you must change. And anything that refuses to grow with you naturally falls away. Growth is not always a rise upward. Growth is often a shedding, a dissolving, a releasing, a quiet, gentle separation from the old. You begin to feel it first in your energy. A heaviness lifts when certain people aren't around. A deeper breath comes when certain conversations end. A natural calm appears when certain connections fade. This is not coincidence. This is your soul speaking. Your soul is constantly telling you what nourishes you and what empties you, what expands you and what contracts you, what heals you and what harms you, what deserves space and what deserves distance. But you must learn to listen. Most of your suffering did not come from losing people. It came from ignoring your soul and listening to your fear. Fear says, don't let them go. Fear says, what if you end up alone? Fear says, who will replace them? Fear says, this is better than nothing. But your soul whispers something different. This is not for you anymore. This is blocking your growth. This is stealing your peace. This is lowering your vibration. This is draining your energy. This is no longer your path. And when the whispers become too loud to ignore, you reach what the mystics call the point of inner truth. The point where you can no longer pretend, where you can no longer stay in places that disturb your spirit, where you can no longer shrink to make others comfortable, where you can no longer silence your needs to avoid someone's disappointment, where you can no longer betray yourself to keep anyone close. At this point, peace becomes your only priority. Not because you are tired of people, but because you are tired of abandoning yourself. Peace asks for one thing: honesty. Honesty about who you've become. Honesty about what you truly feel. Honesty about what you can no longer tolerate. Honesty about who is aligned with your path and who is not. And this honesty breaks you open, but it also sets you free. You begin to realize that you don't need to explain your distance to anyone. The people meant for you will understand without explanation. The people not meant for you will misunderstand even with one. You begin to understand that protecting your peace sometimes means walking away silently, closing the door gently, and never returning to what once hurt you. you learn that the world will not fall apart. If you choose yourself, in fact, your world begins to heal the moment you do. You learn to love without attachment. You learn to care without losing yourself. You learn to give without draining. You learn to connect without clinging. You learn to walk alone without feeling lonely. Because loneliness is not the absence of people. Loneliness is the absence of your own presence. And once you return to yourself, you never feel lonely again. You feel whole. You feel grounded. You feel guided. You feel supported by existence itself. The more you value your peace, the more life removes anything that threatens it. You will notice that you no longer tolerate half love, fake apologies, inconsistent energy, forced relationships, or anyone who treats your soul carelessly. Your heart becomes wiser, your intuition becomes louder, your boundaries become stronger, your silence becomes deeper, your presence becomes calmer. And when you finally reach the point where peace is more important than pleasing anyone, you realize something profound. You were never losing people. You were losing noise. You were losing confusion. You were losing misalignment. You were losing emotional chaos. You were losing expectations that were never yours to carry. What remains is the real you, the you that had been buried under years of fear, attachment, and conditioning. And that version of you attracts a completely different world, a world where love feels natural, a world where conversations feel nourishing, a world where people respect your depth, a world where you don't have to explain your worth, a world where your peace is valued, not questioned, a world where your energy is met, not drained. This is the reward of choosing peace. Everything that is aligned with your soul finds its way to you effortlessly, and everything that isn't fades away without force, because peace is not just a feeling. Peace is a frequency, and whatever matches that frequency will always stay. Whatever doesn't will naturally fall away. This is the law of alignment. This is the wisdom of the soul. This is the freedom of detachment. This is the path of awakening. And once you taste this freedom, you will never again choose people over your peace. Because you will finally know that peace is where your true power lives, and anyone who threatens it does not deserve a place in your life. When the noise of the world fades, your own truth becomes louder. Walk gently, walk fearlessly, walk alone when you must. Your peace is your real companion.